I guess it goes back to my childhood. I always drew and I always doodled and I was always coloring all the time. And even when I tell this story all the time, but when I would go to church with my mom, I really didn't pay attention when I was real little. So she would give me her bad receipts and then I'd sit there and doodle when I was in church on the pew and everything. In my freshman year, I had a class and I really loved it because I had it with Marcy Adams, who was the head director at Bishop Dwenger at the time. We had this brand new facility to use in my sophomore year. And at that time, I got kind of depressed, but I didn't really ever tell anyone about it until it kind of came out in some of my classes in my art and stuff. I was just a really sad person. But the only way to deal with that stuff was I would just sit home and draw. Like, I wouldn't go out. After I did homework, I'd just stay home and like color with crayons, like the most primitive thing I think you can think of. My sophomore year, during an advanced 2D class, I was going to do this ridiculous painting. It was a portrait of Al Capone because I thought he was a badass at the time. And I was really obsessed with like graffiti and stuff because I played like the Tony Hawk games all the time. And so I was going to do this like 4-panel portrait with his portrait in spray paint. And so I was getting ready, I was prepping it, getting ready to come in, and Marcy didn't teach the class at the time. So she came in and was like, "Oh, what are you doing over there with those 4 panels?" I was like, "Oh, I'm going to do this like cool thing." And she's like, "No, you just got to stop right there. I'm going to teach you how to oil paint." And then from that point on, I took every art class that I could take at Bishop Dwenger. And it kind of threw me into this on the path to go to school for art. Then I got accepted to St. Francis, and then I had a couple other teachers that came through, taught me some basics. But my senior year, Tim Parsley, he kind of pushed me in my level of looking at like you could do abstract art if you wanted to, just because the school says that it's realistic style school where that's our main focus is realism. You can go against the grain if you want and do that.
I first got to know Tom when I was in my first year here at the university, and he was a painting student, but he had experienced several changes of painting instructors up to that point. And so his work, I think, in some ways captured different aspects of those influences. And when I got here, he was working in some sense of portraiture, trying to make portraiture work, but by changing the environment, working with different color schemes that were not traditional. And so he first started out when I was here doing more of that and trying to make those paintings work. And we were just kind of experiencing some challenges with that, trying to get the portraits to feel like what he wanted them to feel like. At a certain point, we both started to sense that the areas of his paintings that were not only the most interesting to look at, but were also where he was taking some of the biggest risks and being the most innovative, were in those abstract backgrounds. He was having more fun there, and he was just really pushing paint around in a much more inventive way. And so we said, well, let's just do that. Why are we kind of making this portrait thing try to happen when it seems like the real life of these paintings is happening in the abstraction all around it? I think as far as where Tom goes now and what he's doing, it's great. I mean, he's doing what an artist needs to do, and that is find the time and find the space to be able to make work and not let that momentum fizzle out.
So when I graduated, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go full boat with this. And then I've been painting ever since. I have high anxiety, and I've realized that I am hypersensitive. So when I go somewhere, a normal person can go into a crowded room and can focus on one person's energy and get through the day or whatever. Well, because I'm hypersensitive, I go to that busy room and I focus on the person, but at the same time, I'm still being bombarded with all the other stuff. I can't focus on one thing, so that's why I listen more, because I'm actually listening to a lot more stuff around me. But it's not like that I'm purposely doing it, it's just it automatically happens to me. Like, I can stay as focused as I can on you, but at the same time, I'm still being hit with all this other stuff. So I would express myself through my painting, and I'd focus on just color and like raw emotion when I would paint. But more recently now, I've been pulling myself out of the painting and focusing more on color and design. Through all my paintings, any type of style that I do, color is the #1 thing that connects all my pieces. Like, I always have a crazy color palette, or at least a unique color palette to it. I love painting where I can just be free and express myself, but to get to the next level, I feel like I have to keep pushing the boundaries of where I'm going. Now I'm trying to find the border of sculpture versus painting. What is a painting? How much sculpturally can you do as a painting before it becomes a full sculpture? How much can you do as a sculpture before it's realized, like, they call it a painting? You literally have a different perspective on the piece each time you look. Whereas when you're painting, you're up close and you step away, and you go up close and you step away. And you have those two perspectives. This one, you can go 360 degrees up, 360 degrees down low. It just depends on where it is. So it's always evolving, always changing, and it's just how I can keep growing as an artist. So what it's called is I paint on panel 90% of the time. I paint on it, I choose to paint on it because it's more durable, and you can like really work the surface and be brutal with it, because I'm literally like cutting into it, because I only paint with knives. I build up the panel, I put the backing on it so it has like a piece on each side that gives it its depth, and then I take like a D hook and screw that into the back on each side, and then I wire it with like 50-pound. If it's real heavy, I'll use a 15-pound wire. I'm born and raised in Fort Wayne, so I'm really interested in bringing the acknowledgement to what has created me, and it's by the people that I've been around and the places I grew up and have really influenced me to be the person that I am today. So the first one was downtown. Downtown is a playground for everyone right now. It's growing expansively. It feels like every year it's just getting bigger and bigger, and we're just doing more and more things that are like, it's stupid to say this, but like, people, when they think of downtown Fort Wayne, they used to not think of it as anything. It used to be, oh, I drive through downtown to go to where I'm going to try to go. Now downtown's a destination. So I wanted to show that growing up right outside downtown, I've always been in and around it, but now that I'm at the age where I can use the advantage of the opportunities that are down there, it's an amazing place to be, and I'm kind of jealous of all the people that are going to be seeing it as it more grows and grows and grows up with it being more developed than it was when I was growing up. And then I did one of my grade school to kind of give me, just to show the balance, or at least the respect I have. Like, I was raised Catholic, and that set me up for the type of moral standards I have for my entire life. Like, you don't just walk away from that unaffected. When painting, I'm literally just cutting out my heart and putting it on the canvas. Whether I was in a good mood, bad mood, it's more about, the only way you can become successful is if you have standard studio practice. This is the early years, so I'm just trying to keep that going. Like, I'm trying to get standards. So I try to paint every day, just because if you don't treat it like a full-time job, then you're not going to do anything with it. It's just going to be a hobby. And I want this to be my life, living my life. This is my legacy, so I want to put every hour I have possible into creating and making something that I love. It's like you open a part of your brain and you just create abstraction, and then it's just your whole body flowing from your soul or your brain or your psyche into the art. Being an abstract artist, you take a happy accident and then you try to optimize the beauty of that accident and how you can recreate it and turn that into your own artistic language. And it's just the only way to learn an artistic language through painting is by painting. I want to be a successful business person when it comes to art, but I want to be real about my art. So for me to become a successful artist before I can reach that level of self-sustainability with it, yes, I live at home with my parents because it's one less bill I have to pay. It saves me money so that I can put more money into my art. I graduated from college, so my main focus is paying off all my loans. So that's another thing. I work at Waiter on the way to pay the bills because it's something I have to do. I can't just blindly make art and hope to be able to pay back school loans and pay for myself to do things I want to do and live a comfortable life that I am. Some people see the only way you're going to ever make money is if you become world famous, which I want to do because I'm as delusional enough to believe I'm good enough to become like that because I have the drive to do that. But to keep myself grounded, I know I have to have that base income to survive. It's enjoyable to me because I love doing it, but I have to make it feasible for me to make a living at it. And a lot of people will give up on that dream, and I will die before I do that. Luckily enough, like my parents had built this garage like 15 years ago, and then it wasn't really being used at all other than just for storing junk, so I kind of cleaned it out. So winter would come along, so I painted all through the spring and summer, and then fall. I love fall because it's cool enough I can actually wear long clothes out here. In the summer, it's a heat box, so I'm pretty much just in shorts and a shirt and painting. But when winter comes, the snow's on the ground, and if it's negative 20 degrees outside, it's negative 20 degrees in the garage, so I can't paint. This winter, I decided I had to find a studio space. And I did an internship while in college at Wunderkammer Company. Dan Swartz is the owner and founder of Wunderkammer. And I went and talked to him because I had done my internship there. I knew he had this plan to do a digital and photography studio in the upper level so that artists can come in and do like their graphic design or their computer editing or their photography session type stuff there. And he's still working to make that happen, but right now it's an empty spot. So I decided to question him, say, hey, are you using that yet? And if you're not, can I paint there in the summer or in the winter so that I can keep painting and keep going so I don't feel like it dies out and I lose my momentum. So the dream is become an established artist, be represented in West Coast, East Coast, Chicago, become a nationwide well-known artist. Take that fame nationally and bring it back to Fort Wayne. I only hope to keep expanding Fort Wayne, and with my success, because a lot of people believe that the only way you're gonna make it big is you leave Fort Wayne. I would like to prove them wrong. I'd like to be famous, still live in Fort Wayne, and keep it because it's the most central area. You can go to all the biggest cities from Fort Wayne more easier, other than flying, but you could fly still from Fort Wayne, so that's not even an argument anymore. I would just like to bring more acknowledgement to Fort Wayne because so many people leave Fort Wayne and then make it big, but then they don't come back. It's a very selfish outlook, like my fame's gonna do that. You have to have the undying confidence or you're not gonna do it. It's that simple. You're not gonna be successful if you don't have confidence in yourself. It's something I undyingly believe in. Like I said, I'll die for my art, and if I have to, I will. That is my dedication, and I'm pretty extreme when it comes to that, but I would literally rot in the ground before I gave up painting as a lifelong dream and doing what I want.